Welcome to another fascinating matchup in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master of Faster tournament here on the HomeBoiz channel. Today we have the Black Rose Akiza Izinski representing Team 5Ds as she is set to battle Iliaster's mastermind, Zone! As Akiza is one of the duelists who didn't get much of any shine in the final seasons, one can't help but be curious as to how she'll do against such a top-tier villain. First, let's look at Akiza's deck. Akiza runs a plant deck that is surprisingly offensive considering how low her monster's attack points can be. It specializes in synchro summoning level 7 synchros to bring out her ace monster, the Black Rose Dragon, accompanied by cards like Basil Rose Shoot or Wicked Rebirth that can revive it. Another portion of her deck revolves around inflicting burn damage so that when she's not breaking your board, she's whittling away at you or walking around indestructible monster. Finally, her side deck goes all in with the Rose Dragon archetype, even including the level 10 ready Rose Dragon, who can empty the grave as well as wipe the field and even negate a card effect. She's an incredibly well-rounded duelist, but let's see what her opponent has. Zone's Time Lord deck is the epitome of a boss battle. Every single monster in the archetype is immune to being destroyed, and while neither player takes damage, they have devastating effects for the aftermath of battle. Some of them reset the opponent's field by sending cards to the hand or deck. Others devour the opponent's life points through effect damage or straight up halving life points. Others clear the field and do damage, while some reset the game state for Zone, giving him second chances to survive the grind game. While this is one of the most difficult decks to face, it does have two big weaknesses. First, Time Lord monsters return to the deck during Zone's standby phase. Second, and most importantly, the anime versions of these cards are level 10 monsters that have no means of inherently summoning monsters, so they require 2 sacrifices to be summoned. But even this isn't too big of a weakness, as he has Time Maiden and his 9 machine trap cards who can cheat out the Time Lords for him, but he needs to draw into one of 6 of his 44 card deck for this option to be live. Who will break whose board? Who will burn who first? There's only one way to find out. Ready, set, duel! These two decks are built, going first can make all the difference, and Zone is going to get that advantage for himself and not do anything with it, as he only sets a face down card and passes his turn. Going to Akiza then, she's not going to do too much better as she only sets 2 cards, but she also sets a monster alongside that as she ends her turn. Now, with no monsters on his side of the field, Zone can special summon the Time Maiden, and the Time Maiden can count as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a Time Lord monster, so here comes Sandayon, the Time Lord, with 4,000 attack and defense. And while Time Lords can't do damage to the opponent, when Sandayon battles, at the end of the damage step, Akiza takes 4,000 points of effect damage, so regardless of what he swings into and regardless of what he's able to do to her life points directly, she is automatically brought down to half and her life is in jeopardy. For her next turn, she sets another card before she normal summons the Lord Poison. And while Lord Poison in attack mode can do absolutely nothing to a Time Lord, Time Lords on Zone's next standby phase get shuffled back into the deck, so she's probably hoping that he has nothing that he can go into. Sandayon returns to the deck, and that doesn't stop him though from using the effect of Time Maiden from the graveyard. By removing it from the game from the graveyard, he can special summon a Time Lord with 0 base attack points from the deck regardless of its summoning conditions, and Zone has chosen to summon Hylon, the Time Lord. And with Hylon's ability, after it battles an opponent's monster, Zone takes both duelist's life points and deals the difference as effect damage. So, moving straight into the battle phase, going to attack straight into the Lord Poison, and while Akiza does have her Wall of Thorns, her deck's equivalent to a Mirror Force, Time Lords cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects, so already this is game, and Zone has stolen round 1 with ease. Round 2 is going to be getting underway, and Akiza has allowed for Zone to go first,
expecting that he won't be able to do nearly as much damage to her because the Time Lord won't be able to get to attack before it gets sent back into the deck. And so far so good, because while Zone does open up with the Time Maiden, he also opens up with 4 face-down cards. And while that's not necessarily amazing for Akiza in her perspective, this is great to know that he has 0 Time Lords that he has reserved in his hand, so he will be having to top deck all of his monsters once she gets past the disastrous effects of the Time Maiden. Speaking of which, it sacrifices itself in order to search for the Hylon the Time Lord, and then Zone ends his turn there without summoning any more monsters. For Akiza's turn, she normal summons the Twilight Rose Knight, and Twilight Rose Knight is going to activate its effect, allowing her to special summon a level 4 or lower plant monster from the hand. But in response, Zone activates the Empty Machine Continuous Trap card, and while he has no monsters on his side of the field, he's allowed to normal summon level 10 monsters without tributing for them. But the attack of every monster that he has on his field becomes 0, and all of that is going to instantly become meaningless as he sacrifices the Empty Machine for the Infinite Machine. By sacrificing the Empty Machine to activate the Infinite Machine grants Zone the power to special summon any number of level 10 or higher monsters straight out of his hand, with the same caveat that all of their attack points become 0. In addition to this, the effects of all Time Lord monsters that would prevent the summoning of any type of monster is now negated. This is important because traditionally with this deck, the Time Lords don't allow you to summon anything whatsoever, so now he can vomit out as many monsters as he so pleases. Returning to the resolution of the chain, the Twilight Rose Knight will special summon Lord Poison back for its lick back, but it will be met again with Hylon, the same Time Lord that ended the duel. It won't go exactly the same this time though, as Twilight Rose Knight is going to tune the level 4 Lord Poison for the synchro summon of the Black Rose Dragon, Akiza Signer Dragon, with 2,400, and it will activate its effect. While the Time Lords can't be destroyed, all of Zone's back row can, so there goes the Infinite Machine cards that he already started to set up for himself, and during this standby phase, he loses the only monster on his field, leaving him with whatever card he top decked. He'll set a card face down, and he'll generate a little bit more advantage for himself as he banishes the Time Maiden from the graveyard in order to special summon Meta-Ion, the Time Lord. And when Meta-Ion battles, at the end of the battle phase, all of Akiza's monsters will be returned to the hand, and she'll take 300 for every one that was bounced this way. She isn't afraid of this effect though, as she's going to set up her field anyways by normal summoning the Witch of the Black Rose. And when it gets normal summoned, she draws and reveals a card. And if it's not a monster card, the Witch will be destroyed. And she top decks the Rose Paladin, so the Witch will stay on the field. Then Rose Paladin's going to activate its own effect from the hand. By discarding itself to the graveyard, Akiza can add a level 7 or higher plant monster from the deck, and she will choose to add the Fallen Angel of Roses. Then she'll activate the Black Garden field spell. Black Garden halves the attacks of every monster from this point on who gets normal or special summons. And while this normally doesn't affect the Time Lords because they typically have 0 attack and they can't be destroyed by battle anyways, this does provide a way for Akiza to not only continue to her synchro plays, but to deal damage to Zone without attacking the Time Lords, because whenever a duelist summons a monster, the opponent will get a Rose token in attack mode. And this token not only cannot attack, but cannot be destroyed by battle. So by simply summoning more monsters, Akiza can flood the field with tokens that she can then ram into to hurt Zone's life points. During the end phase though, he activates the Empty Machine Trap card again, so he no longer has to tribute for his high level monsters. However, he loses the one monster on his field and he has no follow-up plays, so he ends his turn there. Now, Akiza will normal summon the Blue Rose Dragon, summoning a Rose token with the effect of the Black Garden to the opponent's field in attack mode. However, because of the effect of Empty Machine that Zone foolishly activated, the Rose token's attack gets dropped to 0, so any monster in Akiza's deck can now destroy it. Now Akiza activates the Mark of the Rose, equipping onto a monster on the opponent's side of the field in order to steal it for a turn, and tunes the Rose token with the Witch of the Black Forest for the Queen of Thorns with 2,200 attack points. And another Rose token will be summoned to Zone's side of the field. Going over the Queen of Thorns' effect, whenever a player normal or special summons a non-plant monster, they must pay 1,000 life points. So going into the battle phase to start chipping away at Zone's life now, Blue Rose Dragon and Queen of Thorns will crash into the Rose token, bringing Zone down to 6,100. And he has to pay even more life if he wants to summon anything, which apparently he can't because he simply sets 2 cards face down and ends his turn. On the next main phase, Akiza activates the effect of the Black Garden, destroying itself and all plant monsters on the field to revive any monster from her graveyard whose attack is equal to or less than the total attack of the monsters that were destroyed. And in response to this, Zone activates the Infinite Machine Trap card, and then follows that up with the Infinite Light Trap card, the final version of this machine series of traps. With the Infinite Light Trap card, Zone negates the effects of all Time Lord monsters that he controls that prevents summoning other monsters, and they can't activate their effects during the standby phase, meaning they will not ever be sent back into his deck by their own accord. On top of all of this, if he summons 10 or more Time Lord monsters with different names throughout the course of this duel, he can send Infinite Light to the graveyard to special summon Cephalon, the ultimate Time Lord, from the hand, deck, or graveyard, ignoring its summoning conditions. And going back to Akiza, she revives the Twilight Rose Knight Tuner monster so that she can synchro into a second copy of the Black Rose Dragon with 2,400 attack points and destroy the entire field again, getting rid of his trap card again. Now she summons the Ruddy Rose Witch, a level 1 tuner with 800 attack points, who then gets sent back to the hand because since it's a plant monster, it can be bounced for the special summon of Fallen Angel of Roses, who can then attack directly for 2,400 damage before she ends her turn. On Zone's turn, he finally gets a Time Lord, but the Time Lords need to be tribute summoned so he can't play a singular thing. Akiza disrespects him by setting up his hand with the Rose Bell of Revelation, normal summons the Phoenixian Sea with an extra 800 attack points, and attacks directly with her 2 monsters, bringing Zone dangerously below the safety line with a mere 500 life. And yet again, he draws a monster he cannot summon, so with this final battle phase, Akiza has won this duel, tying the match. If you asked me to predict this duel, I never would have guessed it would have played out like this, and ironically, on the subject of predictability, Akiza T-sets to start this duel and passes her turn. Zone, somewhat equally predictably, special summons the Time Maiden and sacrifices it for a Time Lord. But Akiza responds with the Rose Flame Trap card, so that every time a plant monster gets summoned to the opponent's side of the field, they'll take 500 points of damage, an effect that I'm sure we'll see pay off later on in this game. Going back to Zone's card though, he resolves to search for Michion the Time Lord, sets a monster, and passes back to Akiza. Akiza will activate the White Rose Cloister field spell now. Whenever she controls no monsters on her side of the field, she can special summon a Rose Dragon or a plant monster from the hand. And then, during her draw phase, before she draws a card, she can predict if it's a monster, spell, or trap, and reveal it. And if she declares it correctly, all of the level 7 or higher synchros on her side of the field gain a 1,000 attack boost until the end of that turn. Now, following everything up, she'll set a monster and pass it back, not doing too much right now because she doesn't want to risk clearing Zone's field and setting up for a second Time Maiden. However, this does allow him to flip summon a Cat of Ill Omen, an oldie but a goodie. And by flip summoning it, he gets to put any trap card in his deck to the top of the deck, and he picks the Empty Machine Trap card before passing his turn yet again. At the beginning of this turn though, she predicts that she draws a monster card, and she in fact does, as it turns out to be the Rose Archer. Now we see the Rose Fairy get flip summoned, and the Rose Princess gets summoned, along with the Glow-A-Bulb get flipped, and I see 2 level 3s and a level 1 tuner, so here comes the Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, Akiza's Manga Signer Dragon. With the Moonlight Dragon's effect, once per turn, if any monster gets special summoned, Akiza can return any monster on the field to the hand, and that includes the Moonlight Dragon itself, so she'll clear the Cat of Ill Omen, very dangerously giving Zone the potential to not only summon another Time Maiden, but to stack his deck with another trap card, but this allows her to swing directly for 3,400, or it would've if Zone didn't have the Empress's Staff trap card in his hand. When an attack of any nature is declared, the Empress's staff can activate from the hand to negate the attack, end the battle phase, and deal 500 points of damage to Akiza. And the catch is, it could have only been activated from the hand if he had no monsters on his field, so the dragon worked against her this time. Zone sets a card and a monster a T-set yet again before passing his turn, and Akiza incorrectly gets his spell card with the White Rose Cloister, revealing to Zone that she has the White Rose Paladin. This doesn't matter too much though, because she's gonna activate the Rose Paladin's effect, discarding itself from the hand to search for the Fallen Angel of Roses yet again. And now she'll enter straight into the battle phase, swing into the Kata Ill Omen, who will stack Zone's deck, this time with the Infinite Machine Trap card. She'll move into main phase 2 now, and as you might have noticed earlier, Glow Up Bulb activated in effect from the graveyard. You see, Glow Up Bulb for every one of Akiza's standby phases that is in the graveyard increases its own level by 1. And in order to special summon itself back from the grave, she has to mill the top card of her deck times its level. And she'll do that now by pitching 2 cards to revive the level 2 tuner Glow Up Bulb. This triggers the effect of the Moonlight Dragon though, so Glow Up Bulb will get sent back to the hand, but that might be what she wanted as she normal summons it, because now it's a level 1 tuner instead, and actually, she'll just end her turn there. For Zone's next turn, he's gonna banish the Time Maiden from the graveyard now, and now special summon Lazion, the Time Lord, who will possibly get bounced as it gets targeted by the Moonlight Dragon, and yes, in fact, it does. Zone has no other plays that he can make here as his hand is completely bricked with his own Time Lord monsters, so he ends his turn there. Akiza correctly guesses monster with the Rose Cloister, so Moonlight Dragon is now up to 3,400 again, and during the battle phase, she gets met with the Empty Machine Trap card, but it gets countered with the Rose Archer from Akiza's hand. This hand trap can only be activated while Akiza controls a plant monster, which is why she normal summoned the Glow Up Bulb in attack mode earlier. And this allows her to negate the activation of a trap card and then destroy it, but it was just a little misplayed as she completely forgot that Zone has the Infinite Machine Trap card as well, tossing out the Empty Machine in order to activate itself, so the effect of Rose Archer was completely negated. And it doesn't stop there, because by sacking off the Infinite Machine, Zone gets to play Infinite Light as well. This doesn't stop anything though, as we're still in the battle phase, and Moonlight Dragon still smacks Zone directly for 3,400. But on the attack of the Glow Up Bulb, Infinite Light can now activate as it's not the damage step. So here comes all 4 of the Time Lords from his hand. And Moonlight Dragon does trigger, but Akiza can only return 1 monster to the hand. While the choice might not entirely matter, she does pick to send back Michion as it can have Akiza's life points. And going into the second main phase now, she actually tunes the Moonlight Dragon with the Glow Up Bulb in order— oh, I was completely mistaken! This isn't a Synchro, it's a Link summon! Crossroads Dragon has now hit the field, and Glow Up Bulb will mill 1 to revive itself from the graveyard. What could she possibly be up to with this? Crossroads Dragon now activates its effect. It'll tribute a plant monster on Akiza's side of the field during the main phase, along with itself, to special summon a Rose Synchro monster or a Plant Synchro monster from the extra deck, with it being counted as a Synchro summon. So here comes the Black Rose Dragon? But Time Lords can't be destroyed by card effects, and she uses the effect anyways just to destroy the trap card. But this triggers the effect of the Crossroads Dragon. I see now, I see. So with Infinite Light gone from the field, during Zone standby phase, all of his Time Lords have to be sent back to the deck. And with Crossroads Dragon banishing itself from the graveyard, Akiza can revive the Black Rose Dragon that just destroyed itself. And she's not done yet, because she normal summons the level 3 tuner, Rox Rose Dragon, who also searches a card for her on summon, and she'll end her turn there. She searched the Basil Rose Shoot, by the way, a quick play spell. I am at a complete loss for words at this mad comeback here. Zone standby phase, all of his monsters get bounced. He can do nothing about any of this, Akiza summons the Phoenixian Seed and attacks with 800, but we see Empress's staff get activated once again to attempt to end the battle phase, and Akiza's responding with the Basil Rose Shoot quick play spell from her hand. This allows her to special summon a Rose Dragon from the hand or graveyard in defense mode, and she special summons the Rox Rose Dragon in order to search the Blue Rose Dragon. This doesn't stop the trap card though, so Empress's staff resolves. The battle phase is now over. Akiza took 500. Not that it matters too much because both in card advantage and life points, she is completely dominating this duel. Zone tries to get a second chance, activating Magical Mallet though, sending any number of cards from his hand, 2 in this instance, back to the deck and drawing the same number of cards. And while he got 2 fresh new cards, he can't do anything with him as he passes his turn without even a single bluff, mind you. Akiza normal summons the Lord Poison to strengthen her offenses. And I believe this is it, ladies and gentlemen. Rox Rose Dragon attacks for 1,600, bringing Zone down to 3,000. Another Rox Rose Dragon attacks, bringing him down to 14. And the Black Rose Dragon attacks for game. Akiza has won the duel.